Do it. Lucas, thanks for making the time, man. Really love obviously like what you're doing with pods and it's helping me on the side monetize this thing. So you're doing something great for the content creators on Farcaster.
Well, I appreciate you having me, Jeff. I think yeah, it's awesome to see more and more podcasts, especially you kind of be native on Farcasters, trying to leverage Web3 social to grow and distribute your podcast and also monetize, obviously on pods. So it's just cool to see new content creators coming into the space.
For sure. No, it's been exciting. I've only been on for a couple of months. I think I started back in April. Um, and just seeing all of the people, the reception of uh people like yourself just reach out and be super helpful. It was a very simple onboarding. I am not technical at all, but for you and the rest of the pods team to be able to like walk me through being like a hosted podcast on the platform was super easy. So this is kind of like a shameless plug for anyone out there that is curious about making a podcast or afraid to do it. Like reach out to the pods team. They will definitely help you out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, no, I mean, I think it's been cool overall, and yeah, we've obviously had just tons of podcasts come to us over the past few years, and yeah, I mean, some people have said that the money that they've made from pods is like changed their life, or even bought stuff like paid for an event or paid for merch to give out to the community. So it's just cool to see the thesis play out in action, and yeah, obviously a ton of creators like yourself have chewed some glass to help us out, but it's been all super valuable and a great experience overall.
For sure. I mean, prime example of just content creators getting paid out and whatnot. With all of the mints that I have received from the platform, I've been able to pay for the mic, been able to pay for my subscription to Riverside, which is what we're using right now. I got a camera, like so at a minimum, at the worst, like lowest level, it pays for itself there. And then
Mhm.
there's, as it's growing and scaling, like I got to put more time and more work in, but there's definite upside and there's real, use case for this that's been great. But maybe for those that don't know, Lucas, just a little bit about how Pods works, instead of just kind of dancing around it. Like it'd be great to
Yeah.
hear directly from you of like what is Pods and how are people using it?
Yeah. So Pods is effectively this way to publish your podcast on chain, specifically as an NFT under an 1155 contract. But what it allows us to do is really just allows any podcast to start monetizing or have the surface area to monetize their episodes directly from their fans from day one, no matter their audience size, whether you have one listener or a million. You can actually leverage pods to start monetizing your podcast and earn some money directly from your fans. And through it, you actually get to build a social graph or like a leaderboard of your biggest fans. So you can start to understand the individuals behind your audience. And then through that, because both of you guys have like an Ethereum address, you kind of establish this bi-directional value exchange or relationship between fans and creators where you can reward them with different things, whether it's an airdrop or token gated access to a group chat, or maybe they can vote on, your next guest or anything like that. So it really provides the primitives for content creators, specifically podcasts, to start monetizing from their fans and then being able to reward and engage those fans in a new way that wasn't possible before. And we launched about almost 2 years ago in October, September. And yeah, we brought about 150 something podcasts on chain. We've helped them generate over $1.5 million in net revenue for them. So it's just been an awesome journey. And I think that's been across almost 4,000 episodes being published on the platform. So we publish probably 50 to 80 episodes every week from different crypto podcasts. And yeah, it's been a great experience overall. And yeah, it's all I can say.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot to unpack. Even thank you for the like, you know, high level overview of pods. I think that's super helpful. And even in that, I'm like learning one of the things. Like, unfortunately, I have not utilized the leaderboard as much as I should. But that's like a great call out. I think that's a tool that um definitely lets you have the opportunity to interact with your audience and supporters. So yeah, I got to get on the airdrops. Maybe I need to start a token or something. I don't know, but TBD. But no, one of the things that's been really cool is being a witness to being like, first off, I started this podcast because of pods. Like I had
Mhm.
no intention of starting a podcast, but then I saw the opportunity for distribution of like what you're trying to. So I started the channel first of Startup Radar. And then
Yeah.
because I saw the opportunity that pods was offering, I was like, why not give it a shot? So kudos to you. And then also it's crazy. Like I'll reach out to friends that do have podcasts in the crypto space that are unfamiliar with pods. And when
Mhm.
I told them the amount of, revenue that's generated off of having this podcast on pods, they're like, dude, shut up. There's no way. And it just goes to show the need for what you are providing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of people still kind of sleep on-chain media as a monetization method. And I think Zora's really brought it maybe more to the front and center of the crypto narrative. Obviously, they're taking a different approach with coins, but I think there's room for both of them, and really just showcases the power of like what you can do when you bring media on chain, which is give everyone a way to natively monetize directly from fans. So,
Totally. No, and that's one of the things that I've been, wrestling with myself is like, okay, getting a content coin. If you do not have like a ton of distribution or like a following,
mhm,
it's really difficult to like generate something off of that.
mhm,
So that's tough. So it's like, do I start doing that? Do I not? But then I look at the alternatives that like Pods offers. Having it just be something that is minted, it is a simple transaction where your audience can support the content creator in a like in a manner that is not speculated. I
mhm.
think that's been tough to wrap my head around, and hopefully there are solutions there for it. But yeah, it's been really tough for me to get around content coins. I don't know if you all have explored that. Curious to hear
Yeah.
like your perspective on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think for one, it's a great innovation, or at least a stat or a shot on net. I think my honest take is that on the content level, I think it doesn't make sense to me, especially for podcasts, just because content is ephemeral, right? You kind of only have that quick moment in the spotlight. And in an ERC20 format, I think that ephemerality, if that's even a word, translates into the coin going to zero. Um, and I don't think fans want to lose 99% of what they support the creator with. And then on top of that, I don't think it's the best mechanism for monetization, in the sense of, if I buy $100, let's just compare NFTs to coins in this on the content level. If I buy $100 worth of your NFTs on pods, like, you earn like $70, $80 of that after the platform fee. If I buy $100 of your episode on Zora, uh, that $100 really translates to $1 to $2 in earnings for you. So just the earnings power on an NFT versus a coin is drastically different. Um, and then Yeah, so I think, like, just that difference right there is a pretty stark difference, in combination with, like, how content is ephemeral. Like, if you took the biggest, Chocolate Rain YouTube video, and you had coined that, back in 2007 or 8 or whatever it is, the market cap of that coin today would probably be close to 0, because no one really cares about it, even though it's generated millions and millions of views. Um, so I think that's kind of my area of reservation around content coins. Now, I think what Zora did really well, and I think what the data is pointing at, is a creator coin level, and being able to own, a portion of that creator. And I think they did a good job with tying back the content coins into that, like, creator, and like that infamous flywheel that everyone's talking about on Twitter. They did a good job with that. And yeah, so that's my take, is like, on the content level, I still firmly believe NFTs are probably the better mechanism for creators in the long term. But I don't think NFTs right now don't have that, like, sexiness of, um, number go up, right? And that speculative behavior that's going to drive people to buy it, which is a double edged sword, at the end of the day. But yeah, I think the creator coin level is definitely more interesting and something that, we're trying to figure out, what the best plan of action is for that. But I think if you could almost tie in that flywheel and replace the content coins with NFTs, I think there might be something there. And I know a couple people trying to think about that relationship, but that would be my hot take. Is it's a great innovation and it's a great way. And obviously Zora is succeeding really well right now. But I just think over the long run, NFTs are a better mechanism for monetizing on the content level than a coin.
Yeah, I completely agree. I look at it like this, like, if I'm a content creator, that creator coin is going to be in perpetuity as long as I'm creating
Right.
content, right? Like, so if
Hmm.
that's the case, you can speculate on the real intrinsic value is like how popular, if I'm a content creator, how popular is my content going to be?
Hmm.
So that's something you can speculate. But to your point, and I know I'm kind of reiterating here, but if I have content, I post it and it has a token on it, it will inevitably go to zero. I mean,
Hmm.
like, and how does that truly support the content creator that put that content out there? Because what you're faced with is this controversy of, if I put this content out there and I rely on monetizing a coin that's attached to it, well,
Hmm.
then it's either I have to rug my entire audience that's supporting me, or there's someone else that's out there that could randomly be a bot and just
Hmm.
sell at the top, liquidate everything. So both the fans and the content creator lose. So
Yeah.
I think that NFTs solve that problem of, like, if you want to support the content creator that doesn't have a token, then
Hmm.
just go buy the NFT that is affiliated with the content. So that's where I really do appreciate pods. Like, it may not be as sexy and number may not go up for the audience, but
Hmm.
it is a direct way for people to be supported that are
Yeah.
trying to put content out there.
And I think the other thing that I think is interesting about the difference here is like in one angle, like the social graph to us is like one of the big like driving reasons for bringing media on chain. And I think when you kind of eliminate the speculative behavior of bringing content on chain via like a forever edition NFT, so it's like it's always open to mint forever. There's no secondary market. You get a much clearer picture of the social graph and the actual fans that want to be there versus like a coin. You're going to have like a lot of mercenaries or snipers or people just buying it because, they're speculative. And I think that social graph gets a lot more noisy with a coin versus an NFT. And for us, like that social graph is like one of the driving reasons or one of the key points for why you're bringing media on chain is to identify the individuals that care about your content and their level of affinity for you as a whole. And I just think in a coin model, it's much more difficult to kind of see through the noise of all the speculation, all the money making, all the mercenary activity happening.
So let's talk about the social graph component of pods and how that has been a benefit. So for, I guess, like, for someone that's like, okay, why Farcaster? Okay, I'm on Farcaster now. Why pods?
Hmm.
That, and this is really for people that are on X that have not explored Web3 social.
Hmm. Yeah, I think the big one for Farcaster these days is really like the mini app thesis. So, um, there's a couple things. Like the first one that's very different from like X versus Farcaster is like uh when you post a link to your episode on Twitter, you're gonna get screwed. Like the algo is gonna penalize you for posting a link. You can't really drive traffic to like your episode on Spotify or YouTube or anything like that versus on Farcaster, with pods, if you post that link to pods, you're actually getting like a mini app and, it's not being penalized, but it's probably actually being boosted by the algo to get more distribution. And through that, people can, the nice thing with Farcaster is that everyone has a wallet, a funded wallet, ideally, and they can mint and directly support you in line without ever leaving the app. So it's kind of like a better experience for being able to drive traffic to your episode. And then from there, if they want to go listen to it, they can listen to it directly on pods, swipe down and just continue scrolling. And they're never leaving the site. Or they could just go listen to it on Spotify, YouTube, or whatever, because we surface all the links to where to find your episode. So I think that's the big difference. And then on top of that, we also have notifications. So we can notify, thousands of people. If you have a banger episode, Jeff, with some really prominent guests, like we can send out a notification to a couple thousand people about your episode. And we could even get more programmatic with it in the sense of like, if you've ever collected an episode of Startup Radar before, like we can automatically notify you next time an episode's published, right, on pods, because that stuff's all on chain and we can all make it programmatic. We don't do that today, but it's something that like is very much possible, just because we don't want to like flood notifications, just because I think that's maybe one of the downsides of the notification system right now is people feel very noisy with all the mini app notifications. But yeah.
Yeah, no, on that note too, I have been fortunate enough to get a couple of notifications. So thanks for thinking a couple of the episodes were bangers that I've put out so far, but it is really tasteful. Um, the fact that I do not get a lot of pods notifications. I subscribe, like, there are podcasts that I listen to outside of like Startup Radar. And I do look for those notifications. And I think you guys have mastered it so far.
Hmm.
Really curious because, like, as an entrepreneur or someone that's like thinking, oh man, this is an awesome way to monetize from a pod's perspective. Like, you could do so many cool things. Hey, if you want to get featured, if you want to have that notification out, you could put a price tag on it. And I think
Hmm.
people would definitely pay for it. So it's cool that you guys have handled it in the way that
Hmm.
you have so far.
Hmm. Yeah, it's definitely interesting, and it kind of maybe leads to the next part of the conversation of how creators are definitely willing to pay for distribution, right? And we have that system right now where like if you sponsor an episode on Pods, i.e., you give out tokens in reward for minting an episode, your episode will like prioritize your notification. And that's kind of one of those instances where we saw like creators are willing to pay for distribution. And it's definitely something that we're thinking more deeply about now.
Yeah. Even today, before this episode's launching, I just put out through Startup Radar's handle and my own. I just said, look, I shout out to Tippin as well. Tippin has been giving me allocations to reward my audience. And so I just said, look, I'm taking the full tranche, and whoever refers me to the next founder or startup that hasn't been on the show, I'm going to tip you out. Therefore, like, I want to give my audience money. I want to pay
Hmm.
them. They support me. I should give back to them in like an effective way. So I think, without further ado, I'd love to learn more about some of the next steps that Pods is taking to help with distribution. If you'd
Hmm.
like to go into that.
Yeah, for sure. Um, so one of the things, we shipped like the new Pods homepage. We felt like that was like a really good culmination of like V1 of Pods. It's like, okay, creators can go and monetize. There's a really good discovery engine behind it. You kind of get everything that we needed. And it gave us the opportunity to just kind of take a step back from like being deep in Pods V1, let's call it, and like think about, look, if we were to rebuild this from the ground up today, how would we do it and what would we be doing differently? And one of the interesting things is like, uh, we probably should be focusing more on distribution and growth and providing tooling for creators to get distribution and get growth in the sense of like if I have if I'm a podcast today and I have 100 listeners on every episode, and you know, you probably actually rather focus on growing that audience to 10,000 people than monetizing, the 10, $20 from the fans that, care about your content today. So that was really like one of the driving reasons of like, okay, let's focus on growth and distribution because we have all these podcasts. They're all able to monetize a little bit or really well in some cases. But, all of them are actually in the market for growth and distribution and growing their audience. And they're all kind of stuck with it. And more specifically, it's like we were doing a bunch of user research, creator research, and you know this, but you probably have 10 tools that you're using in the pre-publishing phase, whether it's the Riverside that we're on right now, to the editing software, to using a hosting provider, to post it. You have all these tools that you're using. You're maybe even mixing some AI, some chat GPT in there. What we realize is that none of the creators are using anything after they publish, right? The post-publishing tool stack is like wide open in the sense of like, great, I published my podcast episode, I tweeted it out, let's see how it does. And like, they're not doing anything beyond that because there's really not a lot of tooling to help you with that. And we wanted to, almost like see if we could add in a tooling for you after your post publishing step. Like, okay, I just published. how do I get this everywhere? How do I get this in front of everyone? And that's kind of where we're going. And if you think specifically about a podcast today, it's like, how do you grow a podcast in its short form content, right? You're posting on Instagram, you're posting on TikTok, you're posting all these clips everywhere. Um, just to try and get new viewership on those platforms and to get new eyeballs to your listeners or like to your podcast. Um, and there are some like people doing this today, like a WAP is a big kind of platform right now that's almost incentivizing people to clip your content and post it. The one issue with that is like the payments infrastructure is archaic and they're like using like a WAPS payment thing and you get credits and you get paid after 48 hours. And like you can actually probably just streamline a lot of that by bringing payments on chain. So really all this is to say is like, how can we start to incentivize your community or like when you publish an episode, can you have an army of people that are ready to clip your content and start posting it everywhere? And you kind of already see this, right? And this is like where WAP slots in. Of like, if you start scrolling TikTok or Instagram, you come across, random podcast clips from some random account that you're like, why is this person posting like a Joe Rogan episode or whatever? And it's because they're getting paid on the back end to be posting that content, and they're getting paid enough where they're incentivized to go and create like the Joe Rogan clips channel, right? And they're just going to post Joe Rogan content all the time, build that audience and build that following and get your brand recognized by more people. So really the thinking is like, how can we bring that stuff on chain and how can we decentralize that army of clippers in a new way? So that's kind of where we're going with this next set of tooling for pods.
There's a couple of things I want to touch on that solves so many problems for me. For example, I think I'm a great case study for this new feature in that I am working multiple things at
Mm-hmm,
once. I do not have the time to go back through my content of raw footage and find every aha or like great moment that should be clipped and distributed on other platforms. Not to
mm-hmm,
mention, I don't use Instagram. I don't have an account. I don't have a TikTok account. I don't have any of those platforms. I like my private space. That's why I'm like only using Riverside. Why I'm only using Farcaster is because like that's just my little comfort zone. I don't need to
mm-hmm,
go post on Twitter, etc. But what you're offering is the ability to have that all outsourced. And
mm-hmm,
that makes my life so much easier in that, okay, I may not have the budget to hire someone full time, but
mm-hmm,
I can, even from like the minting of these pods, like I can take that allocation, dump it right back into the clips feature and say, here's $500, go just shill this, episode that I thought was really good. And then if you
mm-hmm.
cut up the content, put it on the multiple platforms that are out there, there's the solution of like like broadening the reach of Startup Radar.
Yeah. I think that there's a couple things to pull on there. It's like one is like time. And, not a lot of creators have the time or like the expertise to be, posting on every single platform that exists today. So I think bringing that to you or that service to you is huge. And then I think we're also just like entering the business of like how do you surface the best possible clips and how can you pay for that, right? As a creator. And I think that is kind of the game that we're entering into. And maybe taking a step back from that, it's like one thing we realize is that some of the most successful platforms in crypto today pretty much provide users with like a full-time job to make money. Whether you look at something like layer 3 or even Azora, it's like you could be full-time sitting there completing quests on layer 3 or trading content or creator coins on Zora. And it's like, how can we build pods in a way that we can give people across the world like almost an opportunity, if they're good at it, a full-time job. So we also took that approach because that is like the demand side of your product is how can you get full-time jobs or provide software that gives users full-time jobs, right? And the opportunity to earn like that. And I think that's kind of one of the big edges with crypto and bringing payments and media and all this stuff on chain is that you kind of have this ability to send payments to anywhere in the world instantly for less than a penny. Um, and I think that is like the massive edge that more consumer crypto founders should be leaning into more. But I'm just one guy, trying to figure it out too. So,
Yeah, it's. I think there's a lot of great talking points that you just had, and if you look at the macroeconomics of the entire industry, this is where we're shifting.
Hmm.
And, like last night, I talked to um, like a mentor and someone that actually like wants to co-host this podcast with me, much older. He's former like Bear Stearns associate. He's made a very successful career out of venture capital and started his family office. And he's like, and I've been pitching him on Web3.
Hmm.
And I'm just like the dynamic approach that you have to have an understanding of like what this industry is providing, you're not going to
Hmm.
comprehend. And I'm like, don't look at, the controversy around Bitcoin holding a storage of value. Like, don't look at that. Look at what Web3 is offering and how it's decentralizing and outsourcing the jobs that used to pay like hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, but they're offering it to everyone around the world. And when you start to comprehend like how lean you can be as a startup, the fact that you don't need to take on as much capital as a traditional startup used to, your distribution is completely different. The way that you can provide, value to your users is completely different. You're cutting out the middleman of like marketing and advertising and going directly to your customers and saying
Hmm.
like instead of having to go get a marketing budget of X amount of dollars, you can just directly put that in the pockets of your users. And that's what we're seeing with pods, especially with how I think Clips is going to be like super success just because of the fact that you're solving all of these problems. And again, the final point is that the economy is shifting where it's now going to be a gig economy. It's inevitable.
Right.
People are
Yeah.
going to be starting to truly lean into being a content creator. Like I would never have expected myself to start a podcast. Like I still make fun of myself for being a
Hmm.
podcast host because it's just so like it's ridiculous, but you see the results, you see the value you're providing, you get to learn so much, have great conversations, but ultimately you're finding ways to like crack the code of finding little ways to monetize and
Hmm.
support because things are just changing. And it's really cool to see how Pods is solving a lot of those problems.
Yeah. I think yeah, one thing that was interesting for me there is like the gig economy is only going to grow, and I think crypto is kind of the next extension of that growth. And more specifically, it's like kids these days that are graduating high school, they don't want to go to college. They don't want to go get a normal 9 to 5. Like they just want to make money online. And that's kind of what their brains are trained to do right now. Is like that's all you see on Instagram and TikTok is like, ah, I just made 100 bands this month, like selling courses or whatever, bullshit is happening. And like that is like the mentality of the younger generation is like F getting a 9 to 5 job, screw the man. Like I can just go make money online. And they're not wrong in that sense of like there's more and more opportunities than ever to be earning online and earning on chain. And, you know, so just to think of like that is like the market to be operating in right now is like how do you make money online, right? Because that's only going to get more and more. It's going to get bigger and bigger, right? At the end of the day, um, and I think crypto is that next extension of it, where you can really globalize that gig economy aspect and making money online. Because today, most of the Web 2 companies, they're still using the Stripes and like those payment infrastructures that kind of box out a lot of the world. Whereas on-chain USDC stablecoin based payments can happen to anyone anywhere in the world. So you can activate an army of people in Africa or Nigeria or India or anything anywhere in the world. And you actually saw this glimpse last market cycle with Axie Infinity and how it just took over the Philippines. And everyone was just playing Axie Infinity to earn the $4 a day that they need to live. And like, can you find some kid in Manila that can create a awesome clip and pay him $100 for that clip for posting it and getting 5,000 views? You probably can, and that's probably valuable for both parties. So I just think, yeah, this opportunity in crypto in the gig economy almost is massively expanding, and just how can you make money online? And I think stable coins and crypto kind of provide the infrastructure, the rails to really decentralize that and globalize that opportunity.
100%. I think the one thing that you're pointing out that people need to start recognizing is like how much longer are these 9 to 5s going to exist?
Hmm.
Because it's slowly but surely becoming an archaic model
Hmm.
where you're going to see more people become entrepreneurs. It's exciting because one thing that has been complained about on a bipartisan level is the fact that corporations are becoming monopolies, and it's killing the mom and pop, it's killing the middle class. Like it's it's all there. And
Hmm.
I think his name's Chris Dixon. It's the head of Andreessen. Yeah, and he had an awesome discussion where he was talking about there are five major corporations that have like something ridiculous. It was a number that was like mind boggling, like 85% of all like the economy's like internet traffic or internet
Hmm.
money, like revenue is going to like five companies. Everyone else is just not.
Yeah.
And I think Web3 solves that issue. And it's again because of this gig economy approach that it has, allowing someone like yourself to create this, and the competition is not really defined yet. Like you're really
Yeah.
kind of sitting out there in no man's land, providing a solution that's never been really provided. So
Hmm.
I think we're going to see a lot more of that as time progresses.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at like the largest companies and assets by market cap, you have one is gold, and then the next five below that are all digital companies, and then it's Bitcoin, right? Like, so the world is just, you can just see it by the market. The world is going digital and it's rewarding digital companies that are kind of providing these opportunities. And it's only going to get bigger. Um, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at even the banks, like if you're looking at the JP Morgans, the Goldmans, the Stripes, Circle, they're all creating these L1s right now.
Hmm.
And it's like, all right, if you're an old school VC, B2B SaaS type of company, and you're seeing this trend, don't you think it'd be prudent of you to start exploring a little bit deeper into what digital assets are and what blockchain is?
Yeah. I mean, I think the tokenization of everything is happening and it's like more clear. I mean, that's why I came into crypto in the first place. It's like I was on track to go work in finance. And then kind of senior year, I went down the crypto rabbit hole. It was like, screw that. Like, I'm going to go full time in crypto. And I ate some shit for a while, but I do think that this thesis of, tokenize everything and all assets will end up being on chain, ideally on Ethereum, was my bet at the time, is more clear and more like realistic than ever. Like I joked, in 2017 when I was telling my friends that I was going full time in crypto, they thought I was crazy. And I just went to a wedding like 2 weeks ago and they're like, holy shit, like you're
How
not
do
as
you,
crazy. You're
what should I
still
be buying? What should I
they're
be
still
buying?
they still think I'm crazy because they're like, oh, this is all a bubble, like this is going to go down. And I'm like, no, 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 no. This is $100 trillion opportunity, and like we're at 4 trillion right now. So you tell me. And like the probability that this is happening has gone up by 10x, and the risk of that not happening has gone down by 10x. So you're just at a massively better opportunity to be allocating into this space because it feels so obvious now. But we're digressing way off the pod stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, no, dude, this is what it's for. I love having these conversations. So yeah, no, but what else about pods, man? I mean, like, what else would you like to talk about?
No, I think like for the most part, we're just really focused. I mean, phase one of pods was monetization. Phase two now is like really on growth and distribution and how can we provide this tooling for, after you publish to leverage on-chain incentives to grow your podcast or your content or your channel or your brand, ideally off-chain in like traditional platforms. And I think there's a handful of people trying to solve this. And I think whoever can solve the distribution growth stuff and find ways for you as a podcast creator or content creator to start organically in some capacity, growing your audience into like actual true fans, I think is a massive opportunity for the next decade of the creator economy. Because it's only getting bigger. It's been getting bigger for the past 20 years, and it's only going to get even more bigger as kind of we talked about the gig economy and like being your own person and being able to earn an income on your own without a corporation behind you. I think is the big opportunity.
Absolutely. So I can edit this out if it's not, ready to be disclosed.
Mhm.
But if you want to show a demo of what Clips looks like, we could put it on here as well. If not, I can again edit this out.
Yeah. Um, I'm still like on the fence of when we're gonna release this. But let
No
me let me
pressure.
think
Like we
here.
don't have to. And I can also delay on airing this.
Yeah. I can be maybe more specific about, the mechanisms at play here. Um, yeah. So for clips, right? How do we incentivize people to create your, clips for your content? And it's really coming down to like you as a creator allocate some sort of budget, right? Say I got $500. I'm willing to pay $5 for every 1,000 views that you get. Um, you kind of give them the guidelines. You provide like a Google Drive, shared Google Drive with all the assets. So like the MP4 file of the video that you want clipped, maybe some pre-made clips if you've already got those, logos, anything else that you want. And then from there, you go and share that. You post it, you create the campaign. We're working with like an army of clippers already to start providing those clips. And what we do is on the back end, people submit the link to that clip, that piece of content, whether it's on TikTok or YouTube or Twitter or anywhere else. We go ahead and we try and index the views, the number of views that they got, and then based on the rate, the CPM that you're providing, we automatically calculate the payment, and you just click approve or deny on that. So you, as a creator, kind of have that autonomy to be able to approve good submissions versus bad ones. Where we're already seeing is like that overhead is like pretty significant. If you have 100 clips to review, you really only want to just like approve like 5 or 6 of them that like ended up getting the majority of the views for you. um, but that's pretty much how it works. There's a handful of platforms like a WAP Content Rewards does this already, but again, like the big kind of thinking is how can we bring the payments on chain? And then to the earlier conversation, like if you have a creator coin, how can you actually start to leverage that newly formed capital that you have, right? If you're like 11 a.m. from Seed Club, right? Their creator coin on Zora is worth $1 million. They vest 50% of that over 5 years. That's a $500,000. How can you actually use that $500,000 to grow your audience and grow your channel? So can you actually start providing upside in you as a creator for helping and supporting you grow? Um, and that's kind of where we really want to go over the medium term here is like not only stable coins, but really any coin can be used to help grow your channel off chain. Um, and yeah, what kind of questions do you have, Jeff, as someone that might be trying to create one of these campaigns?
So I think great, uh, you know, great talking points here, and thank you for explaining it. I think just to and correct me where I'm wrong here in terms of what the process would look like for a content creator. I am interested in utilizing clips. I have the account. I log in. I see the different campaigns that I can create. I can simply just create a campaign, and then I will immediately get access to your pool of clippers or whatever you're going to
Hmm.
call them. And then I can put in some parameters and say, here's a Google Drive link filled with all of my raw content, the past
Hmm.
21, 22 episodes I've done. Everything's free reign. Feel free to go through my catalogs. If you see something that is pertinent or exciting or just simply good content, clip it, distribute it. And then based on the amount of viewership that is given in that, you will be
Hmm.
paid out. So and then I also have the ability to set parameters and say, like, for example, if this gets 5,000 views, you will get $5 and set the CPM like at whatever rate that I want.
Hmm. Exactly. Yeah, that's the exact flow. And then from there, like if you can imagine, we realized pretty quickly already doing internal testing and like trying the clippers, is like if there's an opportunity to earn, people are going to do it. And now the name of the game is like, how do you surface quality stuff versus and like kind of filter out the noisy stuff? Um, so there's definitely a ton of mechanisms that we want to get in place. Like maybe one is a whitelist, so you can actually just verify, hey, only like these certain people can submit clips. We've also talked to some podcasts that like we have clippers and we have like 2 or 3 people doing this, and like this could almost be a bonus structure for them. So you just whitelist these 3 people to submit your clips. And now you have a bonus structure for those people. If you can make the clip that goes viral on TikTok, you can get that upside, and not just their flat salary or whatever you're paying them. So I think that there's a lot of interesting stuff here. And I think with it, it's like, how can you build your own little personal army of clippers and not like kind of the pure mercenaries that are just clipping everything, which are great in some capacity, but like, you probably want to start building a relationship with those like 10, 20 people that are doing the really good job. And how can you reward them? So there's like another angle of like, can we start providing like dynamic CPMs based on your reputation or your quality of submissions, right? So if like you're just brand new to the platform, maybe you're going to get $1 for every 1,000 views. But if you're like a pro and you've clipped 50 episodes of, the startup radar, and Jeff has approved all of them. Like you're like a level 99 clipper, and you're going to get $5 for every 1,000 views.
So do you
Uh,
have a ranking system that you've already started to internally implement on the Clippers?
Yeah, right now it's just a basic like approval rate. So like based on the number of times you've submitted, if
Nice.
you get approved, you'll have 100%, or like a reject, you'll go down. The way we want to think about it is actually almost like a elo, if you're familiar with like chess or like League of Legends or stuff, where it's kind of like your skill and it can go up or down, or like golf, a handicap, right? Is like another way to think about it. That
It's
goes
awesome.
up or down based on, your performance on the last clip or like the last time you played. So starting to provide like those types of mechanisms, I think will be top of mind for us, but we're still in this like early phase of, testing this out, trying to find people that are willing to pay for this. And then, yeah, we can iron out the kinks, but we've been testing this for about a week and a half or so, and we've already
Wow.
just learned a ton.
Yeah. No, because one
So
of the things, like the pain point for me in all of this is obviously the upside here is endless. The one thing that I'm concerned with is like, well, you kind of you do solve it by having the accept or reject, right? Like that is a huge, like, win because I get to approve what content is being distributed with my like my content. But I think also the one concern I have is like, what's the exposure I'm going to get to these like clippers and editors, and what's going to incentivize them aside from just like the price? Like, is there this thought process here of like, well, if it's shit content, for lack of better words, I'm not even going to bother because I know it's not going to go through. Like, are they taking the time to go through the like catalog of content that's out there, or are they kind of just like, you know what? I'll make lemons out of the lemonade I've been handed, or I will make lemonade out of the lemons I've been handed.
I realize I was on mute there.
I was just
Uh,
gonna say,
my
my
bad.
bad, dude. No, it's my bad. I was
My
like,
bad.
am I? Yeah, you're good.
Um, Yeah, so it's definitely an interesting mix so far, and we're learning a little bit more about how these like clipping communities operate. Um, we think like the what we've seen so far, and this is definitely going to change in the future, is like it seems like a couple people are doing the hard work, finding the clips, the good moments, and then kind of everyone just piles onto that. It's like, oh, that's a good clip. Like I'll just take that, or I'll add my own spin to it, or I'll add like Subway Surfer underneath of it. So it's like the brain rot shit that people are love. Um, so that's kind of like where, yeah, we're what we've seen so far. But, again, we have like a pretty small sample size so far. So we'll see how it evolves. But I can imagine like if it's a good moment in a podcast, someone will find it, someone will clip it, and other people will realize, oh, that's the banging moment. Like we should clip that and make that one go viral. So that's how I think it's operating right now. But again, it'll change.
Yeah, no, I'm just very curious because I mean, I plan on using this. I'm curious to see because I have about a day's worth, like 24 hours worth of content that I'm going to be submitting. I'm curious to see how much in depth like the Clippers are going to
Yeah.
go through and source good content.
Yeah, I think one thing that we're already seeing too is like being more specific about what you want is really helpful. Of like, okay, hey, there's this episode with pods, like clip all the pod stuff. Or like I could as a brand be like, hey, this is a great episode, Jeff. I'm gonna actually pay $500. These motherfuckers are gonna clip pod specific stuff and they're gonna go post it. So I think that's really interesting too, is like if you can give people very specific stuff of like what you want to showcase, or like, you have some project and you really want to highlight that one. I think that's where we're seeing the best results. But it is an interesting experiment to just give them a bunch of assets, a bunch of MP4 files and be like, what do you guys got? And see kind of what comes of it. I do think like the downside of that is like it's like finding a diamond in the rough. You'll probably get a lot of slop of just like, yeah, that wasn't that good, but like someone will find something. Um, but I think that's kind of on us as a platform as well to really surface and empower like the good clippers that are putting in legitimate work to try and get you views.
Totally. And at the end of the day, like if they are taking the time to clip and it is good content, even if it's not good content and it's half decent, it's still distribution. It's still your brand. It's still your handle. It's still your account. So like looking at this as the most pessimistic way that I could, you're still distributing, right? And I think that's so important. Like for me, at this point, like if people have taken the time to chop up something that I've created
Mhm,
and use it on their own without me even like getting the chance to approve or reject, I still like it. Like, cause any publicity is good publicity in my mind,
mhm,
like at this stage, right? So,
yeah, and
no,
even
this
what's,
is
yeah, what's super interesting is, like, some kind of what we're seeing is, like, if you had 100 clips get 500 views each, like that's as good as like one clip, trying to get, 50,000 or 100,000 or 500,000, right? And there is like a strength in numbers game there of just like if you just keep spamming clips and you get 500 views on every single one, like that does add up, over time. Like those are 500 views in some capacity, especially on like the YouTubes or the Instagrams, which are, pretty curated or harder to bot. Um, like those do add up, and just from the basic campaigns that we've done, like we ran like a YouTube specific campaign for Not a Cartel, which is like our podcast that we have at Pods. And we saw a massive spike in like YouTube viewership. And the next episode that we released was like our number one, most like fastest growing video that we released. So we're already getting early signs of data that's saying that it does work. I just think, how it's going to work is going to be interesting, or like what works best more specifically. It will be interesting to experiment with.
so I'm curious, um, is there anything that we can implement that drives them back to pods? Because like
Mm,
for me, I really this is kind of like the intention here is like I want to support Farcaster founders and startups and mini apps, and that was really the purpose of this podcast. Like I'm very specific on who I'm bringing on. They have to have some affiliation with Farcaster. Like it's not just random software companies that are coming on here. I want to make sure that it's all leading back. So for me, I don't care necessarily about YouTube or Instagram or TikTok personally, but if that is going to, downstream lead these end users to Farcaster and get more users on Farcaster, and then people that are going to mint and support the podcast via pods. That's where I'm like most excited
mhm.
about. So I don't know if there's anything implemented on the clips where there's like an end page that is like learn more or follow more from, that could be a parameter I guess I could put in the bounty.
Yeah, that's like a guideline that you could put is like try and link put our pods link in the bio or whatever. I think the harder part is like these platforms are pretty strict on like who gets to link what. And if you're linking people out of their platform, they're not super stoked on it. So yeah, that's definitely the harder part, but ideally, like, the main benefit that you're getting as a creator is just, like, eyeballs and brand awareness, right? And that hopefully over time, if you ran 50 campaigns and spent, $5,000 or whatever over, 6 months, like, those eyeballs would just stack up over time is kind of the thinking. They're like, "Ooh, that was a cool episode. Let me go listen to the full one, on Spotify." So yeah, I think, it's an interesting game, and, like, yeah, as we talked about earlier, these massive Web2 platforms don't love links, directing them out of their own platform. So it is an interesting game, but
Yeah.
yeah.
No, this is awesome. Lucas, is there anything else top of mind that we should be on the lookout for pods? When are there any like time frames of when clips will be ready for the public or anything like that?
We are hoping weeks. I would say by the end of this month is kind of like our timeline for the clips feature. Yeah, we're just kind of ironing out some kinks, trying to polish up the product as much as possible. So, yeah,
It's awesome. Lucas, thank you so much for coming on, man. If you could just stay for like 5 more seconds after,
yeah,
that'd be much appreciated.
sick,
Awesome, man.
awesome joke. Thank you
Thanks
so much.
again. Cheers.